We have a monumental Week 14 matchup of the NFL between the 11-1 Kansas City Chiefs, first in the AFC West and first in the AFC Conference, against the 8-4 Miami Dolphins, second in the AFC East and currently holding a wild card position. So this is a pretty intriguing matchup, and as a Dolphins fan, I can't wait. This game is at 1 o'clock on CBS. Finally, the Dolphins get some national recognition. They do get Jim Nantz and Tony Romo as announcers, which is usually the best game of the week on CBS, which is pretty cool. And this game has a lot of hype to it. And the reality is that this is a strength-on-strength matchup. We have a trigger-happy, air raid passing attack led by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They're number one in passing. They're number one in points. And they love to throw the football down the field. And against a surprisingly, well, not really surprisingly as a Dolphins fan, but I don't know how many people nationally expected it, but a really good secondary led by Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, who are third in passer rating, allowing just a QB rating of 83.1, third in the NFL, and allowing just a completion rate of only 62.4, which is fourth in the NFL. So they do a pretty good job in the back end, and they do a pretty good job of getting pressure. So this is a game between the Kansas City offense and the Miami defense, which is going to be pretty intriguing for many fans. And I'm going to talk about some matchups here I want to look at, because there's a lot of matchups across the board in both sides of the football that I want to take a look at and show you guys. And although I just talked about the Kansas City offense and Miami defense being strengths, I want to start on the other side of the football. I want to see what the Dolphins offense can produce against the Chiefs. So the first matchup I want to take a look at is the running back Myles Gaskin against the Kansas City D-line. So really Myles Gaskin, he's a good player. Last week in Week 13 against the Bengals, he had 21 rushes for 90 yards at a solid 4.3 yards per carry, which is pretty good, and that's going to come in handy against the Kansas City Chiefs defense, which is pretty good against the pass, but they're fairly surprisingly vulnerable against the run. That is something that teams have taken advantage of. You see the teams that have played close. For example, Denver last week. They have two pretty good ball carriers in Melvin Gordon last week. He torched the Kansas City Chiefs. He got 131 yards at 8.7 yards per carry. That is a big number. And that allowed Denver to stay in the game. They were able to chew up some clock, and they had a good chance to win. So if Miami wants to have a chance to win, they need to increase the workload of Myles Gaskin. There's no Salvon Ahmed, backup running back. He's out in Week 14 due to a shoulder injury, which means that Myles Gaskin is going to get a heavy number of touches. He needs to get involved in the offense, and even if he does not produce much on the ground, he has the ability to catch passes out of the backfield, I think he'll still make a pretty big impact in this game, Myles Gaskin. And for any fantasy players in NFL fantasy, I would take Myles Gaskin as a high-end running back too against Kansas City. I think he'll have pretty good production. I can see him getting 75, 80, 100, from 80 to 100 scrimmage yards. I think he'll play pretty well. But I think he will be a focus for this Kansas City defense. So another matchup I want to take a look at is Mike Gesicki against the Kansas City safeties, or in general defense, because they may have linebackers on him. But Mike Gesicki is enjoying a pretty nice season, breakout season for the Miami Dolphins. He is a tight end. He has 39 receptions for 537 yards at about 14 yards a catch and 4 touchdowns. And he's been an integral part of this Miami Dolphins offense this season. And last week, he had one of his best games as a Dolphin. 9 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. He was playing really well against the Bengals, and I think him and Tua Tagovailoa have clearly they built a connection, and I think that's something the Kansas City Chiefs have to look at. In terms of defending him, I think they may put Tyrann Mathieu or safeties on him. I think Tyrann Mathieu is a great player. I don't know for sure who else they will put on him. I haven't done much research into that, but I know for sure that Mike Gesicki will be a pretty big part of this offense. And really, I think that's it for the offense. Moving on to the defensive side, we have a lot of matchups here. Miami Dolphins defense against the Kansas City offense. Honestly, I can almost go with any player on this defense against the offense, because there's so many weapons on the Kansas City offense that every single person needs to be accounted for. But I'll come with a couple of my biggest ones who I think that's going to make the biggest impact in this game. So I'll start from I'll start on the defensive line here. I'll start with Emmanuel Ogbah, the best defensive lineman for the Miami Dolphins, against the Kansas City offensive line, who do not give up many sacks. So the Kansas City Chiefs only give 16 sacks allowed this entire season, which is fifth best in the NFL. So they don't give many sacks to give Patrick Mahomes time to throw the football down the field, and they're going to be facing a pretty good Miami Dolphins defense and pass rush, who they have 31 sacks, which is top 10 in the NFL, and 83 QB hits, tied for sixth in the NFL. So they get up to the quarterback, they hit the quarterback, and that is going to be a big matchup. And I'm going to talk about it a little later in my video about I'm going to break down how the defense works for the Miami Dolphins and give you guys a glimpse of how, hopefully, if they stick to their game plan, what it's going to look like against this Kansas City offense. And yeah, so this pass rush for Miami is going to be big, and they need, and something that's going to be big too is, I'm going to talk about this a little later as well, is them blitzing. They love to blitz. Miami Dolphins is a blitz happy. They love to pull their trigger happy defense. They play aggressive. They love to blitz the quarterback as much as they can. But against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, they're gonna have to be able to send pressure with four guys on the defensive line. They can't be blitzing every play, so they're gonna need guys like Emmanuel Ogbah, their best pass rusher, Shaq Lawson on the D line as well, to be providing pressure for the Dolphins and making Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable and throwing off his back foot. So the next matchup I want to look at, I think this may be the best. This got to be the best matchup of the day is. One of the corners, either Xavier Howard or Byron Jones versus Tyreek Hill. As you guys know, probably Tyreek Hill is one of the most explosive players in the NFL. He streaks down the field. He's one of the fastest in the NFL for sure, the fastest. And if you saw the Bucs against the Chiefs, you saw that the Tyreek Hill's ability is unmatched. He went for big gains. He streaked down the field. He is a phenomenal athlete, and I think covering him will be a big challenge. And I think that the Dolphins will try both Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, and obviously Xavier Howard is the interceptions leader in the NFL. He has 8 interceptions. I think he's the best corner in the NFL. Could be biased, whatever. That's besides the point. But I think that they should put Byron Jones on him because Xavier Howard is really aggressive. And I think you can't be too aggressive against a guy like Tyreek Hill because he'll burn you. So I think that I think Byron Jones will be on Tyreek Hill a good amount of the game. So look for that. I think limiting Tyreek Hill will be huge. And at least I saw some analytical video about the Dolphins. Some analysts saying that the Miami Dolphins are top 10 in taking away a quarterback's first read. So they look for some guy down the field first. That's their original option. If they find them, then they'll pass to them. But Miami Dolphins are one of the best in the NFL of limiting the first option. So, not saying that Patrick Mahomes will be able to be stopped if he just looks for his first read, because he's got Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman, Travis Kelce. I mean, on and on. He has weapons everywhere. But the first step is stopping the first option, which is usually Tyreek Hill. So I think that's going to be a big matchup. And the last match I want to look at when it comes to player versus player is Travis Kelce, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, against Eric Rowe, safety of the Miami Dolphins. That's going to be a huge matchup. I think Travis Kelce is a wrecker. I mean, the guy is a game wrecker. He's a great tight end. Last game against the Broncos, he had 8 receptions, 136 yards and a touchdown. And he's having a phenomenal season. He already has over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's Mahomes' go-to target, and he's a big-bodied receiver who can also block. He's got it all. Pro Bowl, All-Pro tight end player. He is a great one. And I think Eric Rowe is, if there's a guy who can cover Travis Kelce, Eric Rowe has that ability. He has shown this season. He's taken big leaps and bounds since last season. His ability to cover tight ends is, I think he's one of the best in the league. If you've seen him for the Miami Dolphins, he's done a great job against tight ends. I on the top of my head, I don't really trying to think of great tight ends the Miami Dolphins have faced this season, how Eric Rowe fared. And one comes to mind, George Kittle in Week 5 against the 49ers. I believe the week before, George Kittle had a 10-plus reception day and over 100 yards. He had a monster day the week before, but that week he was limited to just 4 catches for like 44 yards or something, and that is one tight end you didn't really hear about against the Miami Dolphins. And if you're Miami Dolphins fans, in years past, we all know that the kryptonite against the Dolphins defense is tight ends. The tight ends always used to get open. It doesn't matter if the person was an all-pro tight end or a nameless tight end. The person would always be open and always gash the Dolphins every game. But I think Eric Rowe's made a big difference. He's been a big difference for them. And it's going to be a key for him to try to neutralize Travis Kelce in this passing game. And the last thing I want to look at before I make my prediction is the overall scope of this game. I want to talk about the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs against the defense of the Miami Dolphins. Specifically, we have quarterback Patrick Mahomes, air raid, goes all out against Brian Flores, head coach of the Miami Dolphins. We're going to see what he can scheme up. What will he blitz? What type of exotic blitzes he'll make? Really what game plan he may have against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I want to take a look at a couple plays that'll show you guys kind of getting an idea of how the Miami Dolphins play their defense and how their blitz schemes work, kind of disguising and things like that. So one play I want to take a look at, this was the game changer against LA Chargers, where Xavier Howard got an interception that basically gave the Dolphins the win. It was a huge play. So what I want to show you is how the Miami Dolphins of the line, they show pressure. They show a seven-man blitz, cover 0. They like to do that a lot of the time. I'm sure the defensive coordinator of the Chargers, they read that. They scouted it before getting into the game. But I want to show, if you see, they have a 7-man front with 42 Clayton Fedulum and 29 Brandon Jones. Those are the two secondary players. They're coming up, so they look like they're going to blitz the quarterback. Justin Herbert, he reads that. And so when he comes to snap the ball, what he doesn't see is the 3 players in the back who are coming to rush. They all drop out into coverage. So now what Justin Herbert reads, what he thinks is a one-on-one with 81, I believe, Mike Williams against Xavier Howard, is actually a 2-on-1. He throws it in the wrong shoulder. There's 2 guys there, and Xavier Howard gets the pick. So that's the type of play I want to show. So it looks like they're in a blitz, but they disguise it very well. And that was a mistake. They had a mistake. And this is really going to be the theme of the game. Will the Miami Dolphins defense, led by Brian Flores, will he continue to blitz against Patrick Mahomes? I believe he has 13 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against the blitz. He has been one of the best quarterbacks ever when you blitz him. And it seems like the only way to stop him is when you don't blitz. So will Brian Flores and this defense continue to stick with their blitzing schemes and try to disguise and catch the offensive line of the Chiefs off guard, or will they change it up? And I think that's going to be a big story. So for this game, Kansas City is favored by 7, which is fairly big. But their last 3 or 4 games, I believe every game has been between one possession, so they've won by 7 points or less. And in this game, I think I gotta take Miami, man. I think they're gonna get the upset. I think the Chiefs are gonna learn that they're not invincible. The Miami Dolphins defense is gonna step up. They're gonna be for real, and I think they're gonna win 24-21. I think the Dolphins will win 24-21.